Hey, y'all. Mm-mm-mm. Hey, guys. Please hold. Hey, y'all. Hey, guys. What's up? Okay, so, hey, Layla. Hey, Brandon. What's up, buddy? Hey, Julie. Hey, Bethany. Hey, guys. Hey, S. Williams. So, you guys. Hey, Amber. I didn't realize I had set the premiere for 7 o'clock, so my bad. My bad. I was. Hey, Reaper Man, what's up? Doing good, doing good. So, what's up, you guys? My name's Nicole DeMeo, or Nicole Pludre now, and this is my channel, Real Talk Recovery, where we talk about recovery from addiction, and I just share my journey with you guys. I am on a medically assisted treatment program, and I'm currently down to 10 milligrams, tapered down from 12, and I'm going next week to go down 2 more milligrams, and I've just been documenting my journey doing that, and just my journey in recovery just all together. I do work a 12-step program, and have a sponsor, and I love the program, and I like to share with you guys what I learn. And so one of the things that I had to do when I first started working with my sponsor was she had me read the bill story and the doctor's opinion. And so last week we did this and we read the doctor's opinion together, and it was so good, you guys. It was just like every time I read the out of here, I feel like I learn, or I feel like when I'm reading, something else pops out to me that I can relate to, or that maybe I didn't understand before, but now I can. It's just like the more I grow in my recovery, the more I realize that there's so many things in this book that I'm just like, damn, that's the truth, you know? And so I'm just a work in progress, and I'm just trying to become a better person one day at a time. And so I thought what I could do was share that with you guys, and we could go through and read together and learn together. So all I'm doing over here, this isn't like, an AA meeting or anything. It's just a group of people who are trying to be better, you guys. Um, and we're just trying to do the right thing and do the right thing together. So, I don't ever want anybody to get confused and think that, I'm not a representative of AA or NA. This is just me, sharing my recovery with you guys and what I do to stay sober. And this program and this book is part of my program. And so I just want to share with you guys what I'm learning. And that's what we're going to do today. We're going to learn and we're going to read about Bill Wilson, and we're going to read his story. And I'm going to read it, and we're going to get halfway through it probably. And then we'll do the next half next week. But I want you guys to listen because I really think that when you hear his story, it's going to you're going to go, damn, I can relate to that. And so in this book, it's about alcoholism. This book is. But I want you guys, if you're an addict, alcoholism and addiction go hand in hand. It's the same thing. Alcoholism is addiction. So if I'm saying alcohol or I say drink, usually what I'll do is I'll say and drugs or I'll fill in pills or whatever your drug of choice is, right? But for me, I was a trash can addict, y'all. I call myself a garbage can addict. I would do anything. It didn't matter if it was alcohol, if it was pills, if it was meth, if it's cocaine, if it's crack. I do it all. So for me, it's just all those substances are bad for me. Anything I'm going to do, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it and it's going to do me. Do you know what I'm saying? So I just want you to know that whenever I say drink, just if you want to replace that with whatever you're addicted to, that might help you to understand a little bit more. You know what I mean? But for me, it's everything, right? I just use drugs and alcohol to change the way I felt. I just use drugs and alcohol to cope with trauma and depression and anxiety, or I use drugs and alcohol to cope with not feeling like I fit in with other people. I used drugs and alcohol a lot when I was younger, growing up as a teenager in high school, because I thought it was going to make me cool. And I thought that when I was getting high, that it gave me so much, I felt like more confident and I felt like I could talk to everybody else and that I was more fun, right? When I was drunk and high, because, well, everybody else was getting drunk and high and we were partying. And, I was in that group of people where, after the football games that I was cheering at, we would go and we would party afterward and get high. Hey, Jason. And so when I was getting drunk and high, it made me feel like, I fit in, right? And that's one of the things that I struggled with all my life, you guys, was like just having this emptiness inside, this void that I felt like I had to feel. And it was almost like I always felt like I just wasn't quite like everyone else. I always was just kind of behind, and I'm not meaning like slow as in like with my smarts or anything. What I mean by that is like I didn't have the same kind of connection. I didn't connect with people and I didn't feel like I fit in with them. I was always different than everyone else. And it was like an internal feeling. It was a feeling on the inside, and so for many, many, many years, I tried to cover up my feelings of insecurity and low self-esteem and self-worth and not loving myself and feeling like I wasn't part of. I tried to cope with those feelings with drugs and alcohol. And that took me down a horrible, horrible road for a long time. I think I was in active addiction from the time I was about 18, like hardcore active addiction, from 18 till I was 32, you guys. And so that's a long time. That's a long time to be abusing drugs and alcohol. And so over those years, it was like second nature to me to use drugs and alcohol. That was my normal. And so when I finally reached out for help to get sober, it wasn't because I was like, oh, I've got a bright idea, I want to get sober. No, it was because some horrible shit was happening in my life. It was because my son was getting taken from me by the state. And it was a wake-up call. And that wake-up call is what catapulted me into making changes. And there's many people that I've seen get sober, and the majority of people that I see get sober, you guys, and change their life, it's not because one day they woke up and they were like, you know what, today I'm going to get sober. It was because something happened that changed, or that something detrimental, something bad happened that made them wake up, right? Prison, someone dying, maybe their friend overdosed, maybe they lost their kids to DHS. I mean, just these different circumstances for everyone. And that's another thing, is like, we're all so different, and each one of us struggled in a different way, and each one of us are going to get sober a different way. So over here on my channel, I just want you guys to know, like, whatever you're doing, I want you to keep doing it. If it's helping you and you're staying sober, just keep doing the next right thing. Keep reaching out for help, and I'm always here for you guys if you need anything. So let me show you what time it is. 7:20. Okay, yeah, we can get started. It's about 7:24. I just didn't want to start too early because, hey Annie, or when do you guys go over and let Krissy know in the Hangouts that we're on, so that way she doesn't miss out. I don't want her to be upset. And yeah, okay, so y'all excited? Here we go. Let's do this. I'm gonna take my glasses off because when I'm seeing stuff close up, I have to take my glasses off. So, all right, you guys, here we are. We're in chapter 1, Bill's story. All right, here we go. War ran high in the New England town to which we knew young officers from Plattsburgh were assigned, and we were flattered when the first citizens took us to their homes, making us feel heroic. He's talking about him and his friends. They're all in the army together, the military. Here was love, applause, war, moments sublime with intervals hilarious. I was part of life at last. I want you guys to really listen to this, because right now he's talking about how he finally feels a part of something, and he was in the war. So I'm going to start over again. Y'all know how I go. Y'all know how I am. Okay, war fever ran high in the New England town to which we knew. Young officers from Plattsburgh were assigned, and we were flattered when the first citizens took us to their homes, making us feel heroic. Here was love, applause, war, moments sublime with intervals hilarious. I was part of life at last, and in the midst of the excitement, I discovered liquor. I forgot the strong warnings and the prejudices of my people concerning drink. In time, we sailed for over there. I was very lonely and again turned to alcohol. We landed in England. I visited Winchester Cathedral. Much moved, I wandered outside. My attention was caught by a doggerel on an old tombstone. And this is what that tombstone read. Here lies a Hampshire grenadier who caught his death, drinking cold small beer. A good soldier is never forgotten, whether he dieth by musket or by pot. So, ominous warning, which I failed to heed. 22 and a veteran of foreign wars, I went home at last. I fancied myself a leader, for had not the men of my battery given me a special token of appreciation? My talent for leadership, I imagined, would place me at the head of a vast enterprise, which I would manage with the utmost assurance. So that's the first page. So if we go back up to the top of it, you guys, he's already explaining to us about how being in the war and being with his brothers in the military was the first time that he really felt part of something, right? And that they were celebrating, and that he started drinking. Okay, so he found liquor. They were celebrating, and they were getting ready to go over to England, and he started drinking. Well, then they got to the war and he started getting lonely, so he turned to alcohol again. All right, and he sees this warning that says, some soldiers are never forgotten, whether they die from the gunshot or they die from drinking themselves to death. Ominous warning, which he failed to heed, because of course he was stubborn, because that's what all of us are like, stubborn. So here we go. I took a night law course and obtained employment as investigator for a surety company. The drive for success was on. I'd proved to the world I was important. My work took me about Wall Street, and little by little I became interested in the market. Many people lost money, but some became very rich. Why not I? I studied economics and business as well as law. Potential alcoholic that I was, I nearly failed all of my law courses. Listen right here. At one of the finals, I was too drunk to think or write. Though my drinking was not yet continuous, it disturbed my wife. We had long talks when I would still her forebodings by telling her that men of genius conceive their best projects when drunk. That the most majestic constructions of philosophic thought were so derived. So, let me read that again. My work took me about Wall Street, and little by little I became interested in the market. Many people lost money, but so many became rich. Why not I? I studied economics and business as well as law. Potential alcoholic that I was, I nearly failed all my law courses. At one of my finals, I was too drunk to think or even write. Though my drinking was not yet continuous, it disturbed my wife. We had long talks when I was still her forebodings by telling her that men of genius conceive their best projects when drunk. That the most majestic constructions of philosophic thought were so derived. Already manipulating his wife and making excuses for his drinking. He's in law school. He is taking his test. He can't write. He can't think because he's drunk in college. How many of you guys have been there? I tried to go to college. Sure did. Signed up for 2 years of community college, you guys. On page 2, Bill's story. And I got in there. I got into college. I signed up, you guys. And I failed out my first semester because what? Your girl was high all the time. I had the best intentions. I wanted to get my degree. I wanted to do well. But alcohol and drugs got in the way. By the time I had completed the course, I knew the law was not for me. The inviting maelstrom of Wall Street had me in its grip. Business and financial leaders were my heroes. Out of this alloy of drink and speculation, I commenced to forge the weapon that one day would turn its flight like a boomerang and all but cut me to ribbons. Living modestly, my wife and I saved $1,000. I went to certain securities, then cheap and rather unpopular. I rightly imagined that they would someday have great rise. I failed to persuade my broker friends to send me out looking over factories and managements, but my wife and I decided to go anyway. I had developed a theory that most people lost money in stocks through ignorance of markets. I discovered many more reasons later on. We gave up our positions and off we roared on a motorcycle. The sidecar stuffed with a tent, blankets, a change of clothes, and 3 huge volumes of a financial reference service. So there, he caught his wife, talked her into getting on a motorcycle with a little sidecar and a tent to go all over the United States of America, you guys, and try to sell stocks and get people to buy stocks. And so he's got his wife, her name is Lois, just so you know, on a motorcycle, and they're going all over the U.S. So here we go. Our friends thought a lunacy commission should be appointed. Perhaps they were right. I had had some success at speculation, so we had a little money, but we once worked on a farm for a month to avoid drawing on our small capital. That was the last honest manual labor on my part for many a day. We covered the whole eastern United States in 1 year. At the end of it, my reports to Wall Street procured me a position there and the use of a large expense account. The exercise of an option brought in more money, leaving us with a profit of several $1,000s for that year. So this is back in the 1930s. So several $1,000s profit, that's good. That's good money. You know, for the next few years, fortune threw money and applause my way. I had arrived. My judgment and my ideas were followed by many to the tune of paper millions. The great boom of the late 20s was seething and swelling. Late 20s. Drinking was taking an important and exhilarating part in my life. There was loud talk in the jazz places uptown. Everyone spent in thousands and chattered in millions. Scoffers would scoff and be damned. I made a host of fair weather friends. My drinking assumed more serious proportions, continuing all day and almost every night. The remonstrances, oh my lord. The remonstrances of my friends terminated in a row, and I became a lone wolf. There were many unhappy scenes in our sumptuous apartment. I'm sure. They were probably fighting all the time. Can you imagine? He's drinking all day and all night. He's made a lot of money, right? But instead of taking that money and like saving it up or putting it somewhere else, he's drinking his life away. You know, he's succeeded and he's doing so well at this job, but the alcoholism is taking over. There had been no real infidelity, for loyalty to my wife, helped at times by extreme drunkenness, kept me out of those scrapes. So basically, he hadn't cheated on her because he'd be so drunk he couldn't. In 1929, I contracted golf fever. We went at once to the country, my wife to applaud while I started out to overtake Walter Hagen. Liquor caught up with me much faster than I came up behind Walter. I began to be jittery in the mornings. So this is also a part where we need to mark it. So this all night drinking, all day drinking, he's waking up in the mornings and he's physically dependent on alcohol now. Like he's waking up in the morning and he's shaking, you know. And how many of you guys have been on alcohol to the point where you wake up in the mornings and you're shaking? Or I remember one time I would wake up and I would shake so bad and my bowels would be so loose. It was torture. Golf permitted drinking every day and every night. It was fun to carom around the exclusive course which had inspired such awe in me as a lad. I acquired the impeccable coat of a tan one sees upon the well-to-do. The local banker watched me whirl fat checks in and out of his till with amused skepticism. Abruptly, in October 1929, hell broke loose on the New York Stock Exchange. After one of those days of inferno, I wobbled home from a hotel bar to a brokerage office. It was 8 o'clock, 5 afters after the market had closed. The ticker still clattered. I was staring at an inch of the tape which bore the inscription, XYZ minus 32. It had been 52 that morning. I was finished, and so were many of my friends. The papers reported men jumping to their death from the towers of high finance. That disgusted me. I would not jump. I went back to the bar. People were committing suicide because they lost everything. The stocks crashed, and these men's, this was their livelihood. This was their jobs. This is how they were living. And they were jumping. They were jumping from the top of the building committing suicide. Right? And he was like, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to go to the bar and drink myself to death. My friends had dropped several millions since 10 o'clock. So what? Tomorrow was another day. As I drank, the old fierce determination to win came back. The next morning, I telephoned a friend in Montreal. He had plenty of money left and thought I had better go to Canada. By the following spring, we were living in our accustomed style. I felt like Napoleon returning from Elba. No St. Helena for me, but drinking caught up with me again, and my generous friend had to let me go. So, he went through the stocks. Stocks plummeted. His friend said, hey, come up here to Canada. I'll help you out. I'll give you a job. He goes up there. He gets back on his feet. He's doing great, making money. But he's drinking still. And his drinking takes a hold again. And his friend's like, man, I can't have you on anymore. I'm going to have to let you go. Your drinking's affecting your performance, right? This time we stayed broke. We went to live with my wife's parents. I found a job, then lost it as the result of a brawl with a taxi driver. Oh, Lord. So he got a job. They moved back with his wife's parents, got a job, was trying to do something better, but still drinking. So he tried to fight the taxi driver and lost his job. Mercifully, no one could guess that I was to have no real employment for 5 years, or hardly draw a sober breath. My wife began to work in a department store, coming home exhausted to find me drunk. I became an unwelcome hanger-on at brokerage places. Liquor ceased to be a luxury, and it became a necessity. So you remember the other day when we were talking about that imaginary line that we crossed, you guys, where drugs and alcohol were something that we did to celebrate, something that we did because it made us feel good. And that imaginary line that we crossed from luxury to necessity, this is what I was talking about. Bathtub gin, 2 bottles a day, and often 3, got to be the routine. Sometimes a small deal would net a few $100s, and I would pay my bills at the bars and delicatessens. This went on endlessly, and I began to waken very early in the morning, shaking violently. A tumbler full of gin, followed by half a dozen bottles of beer, would be required if I were to eat any breakfast. Nevertheless, I still thought I could control the situation, and there were periods of sobriety which renewed my wife's hope. So he is at rock bottom. I mean, he's just drinking himself to death all day long, right? But he still thinks in his mind that he can handle it. He can control his alcoholism, right? And then what he would do was he would probably do like all of us have done. He'd sober up for a couple days or a week, maybe even 2 weeks, maybe a month, right? And so his wife would get so excited, like, yes, he's getting it this time. But what he doesn't have any support. He doesn't know how to stay sober. He does nothing. He's white knuckling it. He's just trying to stay away from the drink, right? But it's like everywhere he goes. And he has no kind of support. And he doesn't know how to stay sober, right? Gradually, things got worse. This is like that vicious cycle, the whole relapse, go to rehab, get sober, relapse. Gradually, things got worse. The house was taken over by the mortgage holder. My mother-in-law died, and my wife and father-in-law became ill. Then I got a promising business opportunity. Stocks were at the low point of 1932, and I had somehow formed a group to buy. I was to share generously in the profits. Then I went on a prodigious bender, and that chance vanished. So something good was coming. He was going to maybe get some stocks and maybe get some money together and make a profit. But even before he could do any of that, he decided to get on a drinking bender, right? And that whole chance vanished. He lost out on that good opportunity. And that's what happens. That's what a lot of us alcoholics and addicts, you guys, is we'll self-sabotage almost. It's like we'll have something good coming up, and then it's like we either have anxiety or we can't cope. We don't know how to handle it. And so we reach for drugs and alcohol, right? And then we totally ruin the whole situation. I woke up. This had to be stopped. I saw I could not take so much as one drink. I was through forever. Okay, so he's swearing off alcohol right here. Let's write that down. Swearing it off. Before then, I had written lots of sweet promises. But my wife happily observed that this time I meant business. And so I did. Shortly afterward, I came home drunk. There had been no fight. Where had been my high resolve? I simply didn't know. It hadn't even come to mind. Someone had pushed a drink my way, and I had taken it. Was I crazy? I began to wonder, for such an appalling lack of perspective seemed near being just that. Renewing my resolve, I tried again. Some time passed, and confidence began to be replaced by cocksureness. So he did good. He stayed sober for a little bit, but instead of being confident in his abilities, he got cocky. I could laugh at the gin mills. Now I had what it takes. One day I walked into a cafe to telephone. In no time, I was beating on the bar, asking myself how it happened. As the whiskey rose to my head, I told myself I would manage better next time. But I might as well get good and drunk then, and I did. The remorse, horror, and hopelessness of the next morning are unforgettable. The courage to do battle was not there. My brain raced uncontrollably, and there was a terrible sense of impending calamity. I hardly dared cross the street, lest I collapse and be run down by an early morning truck, for it was scarcely daylight. An all-night place supplied me with a dozen glasses of ale. My withering nerves were stilled at last. A morning told me the market had gone to hell again. Well, so had I. The market would recover, but I wouldn't. That was a hard thought. Should I kill myself? No, not now. Then a mental fog settled down. Gin would fix that. So 2 bottles and oblivion. The mind and the body are marvelous mechanisms. For mind endured this agony 2 more years. So he went through this for 2 more years, just drinking himself, getting sober, then drinking himself, then getting sober and drinking himself. And I mean sober as in like having, a little bit of non-drinking time, white knuckling it, suffering, Sometimes I stole from my wife's slender purse when the morning terror and madness were on me. Again I swayed dizzily before an open window or the medicine cabinet where there was poison, cursing myself for a weakling. There were flights from city to country and back as my wife and I sought escape. Then came the night when the physical and mental torture was so hellish, I feared I would burst through my window sash and all. Somehow I managed to drag my mattress to a lower floor, lest I suddenly leap. So he's contemplating killing himself. A doctor came with a heavy sedative. The next day found me drinking both gin and taking the sedatives. So right here on page 7, it talks about how he was taking pills and drinking. Okay? This combination soon landed me on the rocks. People feared for my sanity, and so did I. I could eat little or nothing when drinking. and I was 40 pounds underweight. So on here on page 6, you guys, this is like, he is he's struggling, you know, he's hopeless. He's contemplating killing himself. He's drinking and taking pills, you know, and he's 40 pounds underweight. I mean, he is drinking himself to death. My brother-in-law is a physician, and through his kindness and that of my mother, I was placed in a nationally known hospital for the mental and physical rehabilitation of alcoholics. Under the so-called belladonna treatment, my brain cleared. Hydrotherapy and mild exercise helped much. Best of all, I met a kind doctor who explained that though certainly selfish and foolish, I had been seriously ill bodily and mentally. So this is where he meets the doctor who explains to him that alcoholism doesn't just affect, our brain, but also our body, that we're sick, mind and body. Okay? And it relieved me somewhat to learn that in alcoholics, the will is amazingly weakened when it comes to combating liquor, though it often remains strong in other respects. My incredible behavior in the face of a desperate desire to stop was explained. So, although he wanted to stop so badly, and he wanted to get sober so badly, the craving for alcohol, that it when he would be around alcohol, or somebody would offer it to him, it was almost like he had it's like he had to drink. He had no choice against it, right? It relieved me somewhat to learn. Okay, yeah, we read that. My incredible behavior in the face of desperate desire to stop was explained. Understanding myself now, I fared forth in high hope. For 3 or 4 months, the goose hung high. I went to town regularly and even made a little money. Surely this was the answer, self-knowledge. So he stayed sober for 3 or 4 months here. So that's good. But it was not, for the frightful day came when I drank once more. So he had 4 months sober, and he drank again. The curb of my declining moral and bodily health fell off like a ski jump. After a time, I returned to the hospital. So he got out of the hospital, stayed sober for 4 months, you guys. And again, he doesn't have any support. He just got out of the hospital and went straight back to his old life, right? And he managed to stay sober for 4 months, white knuckling it again, right? But then he drank again. This was the finish. The curtain, it seemed to me. My weary and despairing wife was informed that it would all end with heart failure during delirium tremens, or I would develop a wet brain, perhaps within a year. Okay. So now they're telling him that ethanol withdrawal manifested by altered mental status, global confusion, and sympathetic overdrive, which can progress to cardiovascular collapse. Okay? And then let's look at wet brain. So it's getting real serious for Bill, okay? He's like dying, you guys. And if he doesn't get serious, he's going to die. Oh. Wet brain is a form of brain damage that results from repeat and heavy exposure to alcohol, also known as Wernicke-Korsakoff syndrome. Wet brain stems from a thiamine vitamin B1 deficiency. Wow. She would soon have to give me over to the undertaker or the asylum. So he's going to have to go into an asylum, a mental asylum, because he's fixing to have wet brain. Go have brain damage from drinking. And this is willingly drinking, right? This is what the addiction does. Okay? What person in their right mind wants to have brain damage? What person in their right mind drinks themselves to death? Right? That's the disease. That is alcoholism and addiction. That's the disease of addiction. It takes over. They did not need to tell me. I knew and almost welcomed the idea. He was hopeless. He was like, kill me already. Death, come on. It was a devastating blow to my pride. I, who had thought so well of myself and my abilities, of my capacity to surmount obstacles, was cornered at last. Now I was to plunge into the dark, joining that endless procession of sots who had gone on before. I thought of my poor wife. There had been much happiness after all. What would I not give to make amends? But that was over now. No words can tell of the loneliness and despair I found in that bitter morass of self-pity. Quicksand stretched around me in all directions. I had met my match. I had been overwhelmed. Alcohol was my master. Okay, so let me see. Hold on. Okay, I'm going to read this page, and then we're going to stop, and we'll do the other half. Okay? Okay. Trembling, I stepped from the hospital, a broken man. Fear sobered me for a bit. So he stayed sober for a bit because he was just straight up afraid. Then came the insidious insanity of that first drink. And on Armistice Day in 1934, I was drunk again. Everyone became resigned to the certainty that I would have to be shut up somewhere or would stumble along to a miserable end. How dark it was before the dawn. In reality, that was the beginning of my last debauch. I was soon to be catapulted into what I like to call the fourth dimension of existence. I was to know happiness, peace, and usefulness in a way of life that is incredibly more wonderful as time passes. Near the end of that bleak November, I sat drinking in my kitchen. With a certain satisfaction, I reflected there was enough gin concealed about the house to carry me through that night and the next day. My wife was at work. I wondered whether I dared hide a full bottle of gin near the head of our bed. I would need it before daylight. My musing was interrupted by the telephone. The cheery voice of an old school friend asked if he might come over. He was sober. It was years since I could remember his coming to New York in that condition. I was amazed. Rumor had it that he had become committed for alcoholic insanity. I wondered how he had escaped. Of course he would have dinner, and then I could drink openly with him. Unmindful of his welfare, I thought only of recapturing the spirit of other days. There was that time we had chattered on an airplane to complete a jag. His coming was an oasis in this dreary desert of futility. The very thing, an oasis. Drinkers are like that. The door opened and he stood there, fresh-skinned and glowing. There was something about his eyes. He was inexplicably different. What had happened? I pushed a drink across the table. He refused it. Disappointed but curious, I wondered what had gotten to the fellow. He wasn't himself. Come, what's this all about? He looked straight at me. Simply but smilingly, he said, I've got religion. I was aghast. So that was it. Last summer he was an alcoholic crackpot. And now I suspected a little cracked about religion. He had that starry-eyed look. Yes, the old boy was on fire, all right. But bless his heart, let him rant. Besides, my gin would last longer than his preaching. We're going to stop right there. Okay. I had to take you guys to the part where at least his friend's coming over. Okay, and so Bill is like, this dude's done lost his mind. He's got religion. That's okay. I'm going to drink my gin. This is the bomb, y'all. I love reading this with you guys. I'm like about to cry. So, because this is just like, okay, so we're going to go back and we're going to talk about some stuff, okay? Because I'm getting excited. Here. Okay. So in my book, you guys, I have written down little notes and things that I could relate to whenever I was reading through the story. And I'm going to go back through it with you guys, okay? And we're going to read some of these things. Okay, so at the beginning, Bill was talking how they were known as heroes, right? Because they were in the military. And let's think back to those days, back in the 1920s, you know? They were doing the draft back then. So if you like went into the military and you got drafted, it was like you were like a hero. You were a strong. You were going to fight for our country. You know. So and still military men. I mean, anybody that goes to fight to their country, even to this day, is a hero in my eyes. You know. But just imagine, Bill's young. He's like 20-something years old, and he goes to war, and they come back, and he's found alcohol while he's over there, you know, and he's lonely and he's without his wife, and that's how he's coping, is he's drinking, right? But he never in a million years, and that's how it starts out for a lot of us. We never in a million years think that, you know, starting out drinking or smoking or taking a couple pills because our back hurts is going to lead us down this road where we cannot stop, right? And in this story, Bill repeatedly stops drinking, right? But he's not having a problem stopping. He's having a problem not starting back up. He doesn't know how to stay stopped. Okay? And so all of his efforts to get sober were failed because he had no idea how to sober up. He didn't have any support, right? I mean, once you practice drinking and using drugs for so many years, you have to kind of have, well, for me, I had to have someone to guide me, to show me how to live without drugs and alcohol, you know? Oh, I love reading this, Amber. It gets me excited. And so when I was reading this with my sponsor, you guys, especially on this first page, when he's talking about, you know, I'm a leader. He says, I fancied myself a leader, for had not the men of my battery given me a special token of appreciation? So the men that he led in his battery, they gave him a medal for being a strong leader, right? And he was full of himself. Bill was he was cocky. Had a big ego, big prideful man, okay? Lots of pride, lots of ego here. All right? And he says, I imagine would place me at the head of vast enterprises. So he's already into the future thinking of all the things he's going to do now that he's back from the war. He's going to have a huge business. He's going to be the CEO. He's going to be making millions of dollars. He is on top of the world, right? He's Bill. He's Bill Wilson. You know? The drive for success was on. I'd prove to the world I was important. So for normal people, it's like his drive to do better was to prove to everyone else that he was important. Do you see what I'm saying? The focus, it wasn't because, hey, I want to take good care of my wife and raise a family and be happy. It was, I've got to prove my worth. I've got to show everybody, look at me. I'm Bill W., right? Grandiose thinking. grandiose thinking, and he is searching for validation. Okay? That's what this is all about. He needs validation. He needs people to see he's Bill W. He's got this under control. He's doing this. And he's got this grandiose thinking. I'm going to go into Wall Street. I'm going to make millions of dollars. I won't lose money. It's not going to happen to me, right? Then he starts college up and is drunk in his classes. And when I started reading this about him going to college, you guys, and drinking and failing classes because he can't stay sober inside his class, I thought, oh my God, that is me. Y'all, when I started drinking and using, there was no place I wasn't going to use. I was going to be high at school. I was going to be high in college. I was going to be high at work. Once I started that vicious cycle, I was going to be high anywhere and everywhere I had to be, because that was, being high was my normal. Being high was my baseline, right? That's what I was. I was high all the time. Always had to change the way I felt because I didn't feel good on the inside. Just like Bill, he started out not feeling good on the inside. He started out feeling like he had to prove himself to everybody else, right? He felt like, finally, I'm a part of something. I'm in the military and, I'm a leader and I'm going to show everybody, look at me. I've got this, right? For the next few years, fortune threw money and applause my way. I had arrived, okay? Fortune threw money and applause his way. He had arrived, and again, like, we're placing these material things at the center, right? He's basing his worth off of the money he's making, right? And not the kind of man he is, not his core beliefs, not I'm taking care of my family, and he's basing his worth on this money, right? And so you guys know how it is when you base your worth off of outside things, off of material things. That never lasts. That would kind of be like me basing my worth off my subscriber count, right? I'm bound to be disappointed, I have to love me for me. Right? I can't depend on how many subs I have on YouTube to build me up. I have to love me on the inside. I have to love myself for who I am. But as alcoholics and addicts, you guys, we struggle with that on the inside. That's why so many of us become susceptible to addiction and alcoholism, because we have a malady, a void inside of us, right? And that's why so many of us, when we get on drugs and alcohol, it's like our magic escape, right? It's like the thing that we've always needed, and it feels like it's the cure, right? I mean, how many of you guys felt like that when you were starting out? This is it. Oh my gosh, I've been looking for this all my life. I can finally do things. I finally have enough energy to clean my house. I finally feel beautiful and skinny. Oh, look, I can stay up all night and study. Whatever it is that motivated you to start trying, we all had a motivation at the beginning, right? And then what he talks about is his drinking starts progressing, right? Drink was taking an important and exhilarating part of my life. So his drinking became like the center of his life. And that's that imaginary line I was telling you about. We all cross it where it's like it becomes what we do every single day. And he made a host of fair weather friends. He made a bunch of drunk friends. He didn't have any real friends, just like we do when we're in active addiction. We have all these people, right, that will get high with us, that will drink with us, that can hook us up when we don't have anything, right? And that's what we do. We put people around us that we can all benefit from, and we use each other, right? Those are the relationships a lot of us make in active addiction and alcoholism. It's those fair weathered friend relationships. My drinking assumed more serious proportions, continuing all day and almost every night. And in the mornings, I began to be jittery. But drinking caught up with me again, and my generous friend had to let me go. So he's losing jobs. So he lost the job, He lost his job on Wall Street, okay, because the stocks plummeted. All right. Then his friend says, "Hey, man, come out here. I'll hook you up. You can come and I'll give you a job." Gets fired from that job because he's too drunk all the time. So his friend has to let him go. He goes through like 4 jobs just in the beginning of the story. And it's because when we're drinking and using, you guys, we cannot maintain, right, a responsible life, especially if we're drinking and using to the extent that Bill was. He was just a full-fledged alcoholic. And if you are able to maintain, if you are able to function at the beginning, just give it some time. Just give it some time. Because what happens is it just progresses. It progresses. Because believe me, honey, I used to work a full-time job and be high. I used to work 40 plus hours a week and be high. And has to make money. But what happens is it just gets progressively worse. And eventually you start calling in, you start missing days, right? As I drank, the old fierce determination to win came back. So he's getting this false sense of pride, right? The drink is giving him the confidence, the false sense of confidence. That, you know how that is when you're drinking or you're getting high and you're like, I got this, I can do this, right? That's that alcohol or that drugs talking. And for me, I hope this is helping you guys understand it a little bit more, because I know when I read this, you guys, sometimes I get a little bit confused because I'm like, what is he talking about? So that's why we're going back through it. But drinking caught up to me again, and my generous friend had to let me go. This time we stayed broke. So in here I have written in parentheses, rock bottom, right? He loses his job. His wife's parents passed away. I mean, they're just broke. They have nothing. Liquor ceased to be a luxury. It had become a necessity. It became something that he had to do every single day to maintain his life. Nevertheless, I still thought I could control the situation, and there were periods of sobriety which renewed my wife's hope. This is that delusion. And it talks about this in the doctor's opinion and in further chapters in here about how we have an illusion of control, that we can somehow do this on our own, right? And that's what a lot of us don't reach out for help, because we think we should be able to get better. Well, I started this. I'm the one who got high or got drunk for the first time. I should be able to get better on my own. I should be able to handle this on my own, right? And that's pride. That's pride and ego blocking you off from getting help. Okay, that's what your addiction wants you to do. Your addiction wants you to believe that you got this. But let me just tell you, it's not. And shame also. Shame. Shame will keep you back in your addiction and keep you from reaching out, you guys. But I'm telling you what, I've been there. And I've been too ashamed for reach out for help. I've been too, embarrassed and thought I could handle it, right? And what I did was I stayed in active addiction for so much longer than I had to, because I didn't reach out. Okay, on page 6, there's a whole paragraph where he talks about just how hopeless he is. He says, the remorse, horror, and hopelessness of the next morning are unforgettable. The courage to do battle was not there, like he couldn't go on another day. My brain raced uncontrollably, and there was a terrible sense of impending calamity or impending doom. I hardly dared cross the street, lest I collapse and be run down by an early morning truck, for it was scarcely daylight. An all-night place supplied me with dozens glasses of ale. So he stayed drinking all night at a bar. My withering nerves were stilled at last. A morning paper told me the market had gone to hell. Well, so had I. The market would recover, but I wouldn't. That was a hard thought. Should I kill myself? No, not now. So he's contemplating killing himself, you guys, because he cannot stop drinking. Okay? No matter what he does, he cannot stop. The mind and the body are marvelous mechanisms, for mine endured this agony for 2 more years. And then came the night when the physical and mental torture was so hellish, I feared I would burst through my window sash and all, jump out the window, okay? Somehow I managed to drag my mattress to a lower floor, lest I suddenly leap. A doctor came with a heavy sedative. Next day, found me drinking both gin and sedative. So this is a really important part of the book because for a lot of people that are addicts, this shows you right here that Bill just wasn't an alcoholic, you guys. He was an addict too. If he had the ability to do drugs or take pills, he was going to take them too, right? He was just a straight up real addict, real alcoholic. I mean, and so if it was available to him, he was going to use it. So those of you who were like, oh, I can't go to AA because it's just for alcoholics, I'm here to tell you, baby, you could come over here and you can learn, and that's fine, okay? Because addiction is addiction, all right? It's alcohol addiction. Addiction. It's a disease. So anyway, then came the insidious insanity. Okay, so he goes into the rehab. He comes out. He's got 3 or 4 months sober, right? And he's finally making it, right? But then comes the insidious insanity of that first drink. And on an armistice day in 1934, he was off again. Everyone became resigned to the certainty that I would have to be shut up somewhere or would stumble along to a miserable end. So remember, the doctor tells him, you're going to have wet brain. You are going to die of cardiac arrest. You are going to be brain damaged because you're drinking yourself to death. And he still cannot say no. He cannot, you guys. And he drinks again. All right. So now he's like, I'm completely insane. I cannot. And that's what happens, you guys. That first drink or that first drug, once we take that substance into our body, that's when that craving kicks in, right? And we're off to the races. And that's what Bill shows us time and time again in this Bill story, is that each time he takes that first drink, he's off to the races, right? And so here he is. He's just like, I'm going to kill myself. I might as well die. And then his friend, Ebby, calls him. And he's like, hey, man, can I come over and hang out? Let's hang out. Let's have dinner or something. And he's like, what? He's like, yeah, let's hang out. I'm sober. And Bill's thinking, what? He's sober? I remember 2 summers ago, he was drunk as a skunk on a jet with me. We were flying somewhere, just having a good old time drinking, right? And Ebby comes over and they're hanging out. And he tries to slide Ebby some gin, slides it across the table to him. And he goes, so here's what he says. I pushed a drink across the table. He refused it. Disappointed but curious, I wondered what had gotten into the fellow. He wasn't himself. Come on, what's this all about? I said. He looked straight at me, seemingly smiling. He said, I've got religion. I was aghast. I love that. I was aghast. So that was it. Yeah, that was it. Last summer, an alcoholic crackpot. Now, I suspected a little cracked about religion. He had a starry-eyed look. Yes, the old boy was on fire all right. But bless his heart. Let him rant. Besides, my gin would last longer than his preaching. And that's where we're leaving off tonight, you guys. So,
hi, guys.
Say hi to everybody today.
Hi. Watch this.
You know what, Layla?
Watch me move my eyes.
And maybe that's how it is for that person at the beginning, you guys. Maybe they have control over it right now. But I'm just telling you, if they're truly an alcoholic or an addict, their addiction or alcoholism will progress. And it will get worse and worse and worse as time goes on. And eventually they will lose control. It's just a matter of time. And that's the thing. It's different for everyone. That time when we lose control and we cross over that imaginary line, it's different for everyone. And that's kind of why it's like, that's why a lot of people, I think, I hear a lot of people say things like that, like, "Oh, I didn't let myself get that bad," or, and what we call that is those are the yets. You might not have gotten there yet, but if you continue on going in the rate you're going, you'll be there. Okay, but believe me, baby, you be there. It gets worse, never better. The disease of addiction is progressive, and if we leave it untreated, it will just progress and progress and progress. So, anyway, I love you guys. I hope y'all enjoyed that. So we'll do part 2 next week on Tuesday, and yeah, we're just going to go through the chapters together like this, you guys. I hope this, if you have had trouble understanding Bill's story or the big book, I hope this is helping you guys just to understand it a little bit better. And for those of you who have never, yeah, baby, I'm coming. For those of you who have never, read the big book or anything, I hope that you're enjoying this. And I just love doing this with you guys. Like, it just gets me so excited. And I just want you guys to know how important you guys are to me. And I hope that I'm inspiring you and helping you guys to find what works for you in your recovery, because that's just the goal. You got to do what works for you, whatever that may be. And we're making a little family over here. We have a little family, and we're all trying to stay on the right path together. So, anyways, I love you guys. I'm going to feed this kid. Leave me a thumbs up. Thank you, Annie. And if you haven't already, you guys, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. I would love to have you over. We do weekly meetings every Tuesday and every Friday, okay? Friday nights are Matt support group meetings, and Tuesday big book studies. And, after we get through all the big book, we'll move on to something else. But then throughout the week, I sprinkle in just little videos of things that I've been thinking about and things that I might be struggling with. And I just share with you guys my journey in recovery. So if you would like to join me on this journey, I would love to have you. And yeah, you guys help me so much, so I really appreciate it. And that's right, we are family. I got all my sisters with me. We are family. We're a sober support network, and that's what this is about. It's so important, you guys, to have support. It's hard when you're trying to do it all by yourself. For me, it was impossible. I needed other addicts and alcoholics who knew where I had been, who could relate to what I was talking about, to help me, man. And I'm telling you, it's changed my life. And I hope that you guys are coming to terms and seeing that the support will change your life. If you can get a good support system and get good people who are trying to stay on the path like you are and who are like-minded, it will help you. It will change your life. All right, guys, I love you, and I'll see you guys. Wait a second. Sobriety birthdays. Okay, drop your sobriety birthdays in the comments below, you guys, so I can shout you out and congratulate you. I know Annie just celebrated 30 days on the 28th. I know Sonia just celebrated 30 days too, I think. Or was it 30 or 90 days? Oh, I can't remember. But I want you guys to know how proud I am of all of you for your sobriety and for just taking it and doing it one day at a time. Y'all are killing it. This child. Here, baby, I'll give you an applesauce. Does your dad want one too?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm giving him one.
Layla is 4 months sober now, you guys. Sonia's 40 days. Annie's got 30 days. Candy has got 200 days. Oh my God, Candy, that is so good. See? That is so awesome. And what you're doing right now by dropping your sobriety dates in the comments, you guys, many people come back and they watch these videos on replay. And they see our comments and they're going to see your sobriety dates, and that's going to inspire them. There's people that are still in active addiction that they don't think it's possible. They don't think that they can find right recovery. So you guys sharing your sobriety date, it is important because it's helping other people. And that's what the whole purpose, it's like you shout that sobriety date out and you let people know, hey, look, I'm doing this. I've got this. Look, not I got this, but I'm doing this, right? Julie's got 3 months. That's awesome. And it will help you guys to see, like, for my people that are still struggling, don't y'all be ashamed. Listen, sometimes you just got to keep on seeing. You got to keep on seeing that it's possible and that you can make the change. And that's the thing. We want you. We'll be here for you. Okay, we're gonna ride it out with you. And when you're ready to change, you know where we're gonna be. We're gonna be right here, doing what we do every Tuesday and every Friday. So y'all, I'm serious. Don't give up. You gotta fight for your life. That's the thing. Stop giving up on yourself. All right? Stop giving up on yourself and fight for your life. It doesn't matter how many times it takes. Just fight. When you continue doing dope and you continue drinking, you're giving up. You're folding. You're forfeiting. Okay? You're not even fighting. Get off. I'm telling you, get that shit out of your house. Throw it away. Throw it all away. Flush it down the toilet. Right? You can do this, and I have faith in you guys. I'm serious. Like, I know it's hard. Please understand that, you guys, and I'm never going to forget. I'm never going to forget what it was like when my son got taken from me, because that was what happened. When they took my son, I went straight to treatment. I said, "Oh, hell no." And I ran to the detox center. I had the DHS worker take me there because that was that kick I needed. That was that, you know what I mean? To get me up off my rump. Because what happens, you guys, is we get so comfortable in our addiction sometimes that we think we can't get out of it, right? And so we get in this like ditch. And so sometimes, you guys, it takes something happening. Sometimes it takes somebody getting a winch, hooking it up to our truck and pulling us out of the ditch, right? And so that's what happened for me. When DHS got called and my son got taken away, that pulled me up out of that ditch real quick. Now, I wasn't ready. I was still acting like a fool in treatment. But it sure did get me out of there and got my head out of the sand, because my head was stuck down in the sand for a long time, you guys. I was blind. I was blinded by my addiction. The obsession to use was so strong I couldn't see nothing else but dope. That was all my focus was getting high, getting high, getting high, getting high. And so I didn't even have any focus on my son, because I was just so focused on drugs. It took over my whole life. It was every part of my life. So I understand. Okay? I just want you guys to reach out for help. I'm always here. A lot of you guys have my phone number. All you got to do is text me. I will do anything I can to help you find help. All right? Okay, guys. I love y'all. I'll see you later, okay? Be good. Do the right thing. Make good choices. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Y'all know I'll be on here.